What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Flake Garage. My name is Brian, and today we have a video on how to clean up your engine bay after doing a Weber install. If you watch my other video, I told you that I was going to show you how to clean up basically all the wires that we left there hanging, everything that we don't need anymore. We're going to come in, take it out, cut some of those wires out of the way because we won't need them anymore at all. If you're planning for whatever reason to go back to the factory carburetor, then you might not want to do this. But if you are planning to stick in with the Weber carb, basically the ECU and a lot of wires that are attached to it are not going to be needed anymore. So let me show you here what we're going to take off on the engine bay, show you what we're going to take off on the inside of the truck, and then just give you some tips on how to clean this up. Let's do it. All right, guys, and here we have the truck. As you can see, I have my tent up. It is very hot right now, so I'm trying to basically stay as cool as possible. But we have our engine bay, we have our Weber carburetor. I've taken a little bit of the stuff off already, but let me show you here real quick. We might remove the battery just so we have better access into here. So let me put that to the side real quick and I'll come back. All right, guys, and with the battery out of the way, we can basically start tackling this wiring mess here. As you can see, I have my negative cable, my power cable here, and some of this stuff might look a little bit different. I know this battery cable is definitely not the factory setup here, so it is wired a little bit differently, but it shouldn't be too different from yours. So if we look over here, this is basically the mess that we left hanging here from all the factory stuff that we removed. We don't need this anymore at all. And then if you see here, it's attached with some zip ties. This is what one of them was here towards the front. This one is easy to remove. I haven't been able to take this one off the same way, so I'm probably gonna come in and cut it. But basically, we're gonna remove this, remove the one here, and you can literally just start taking off this whole wiring harness out of the way. We're gonna trace that all the way back here. Unfortunately, in some of this area, we do have some wires that we need to keep, guys. Make sure if you have this three modules here, so we have 1, 2, and 3, those need to stay in place. So all the wires that go with that need to remain in the truck, need to remain going to the inside. There is one wire also that goes here to our window regulator, or I'm sorry, our windshield wiper motor. And we do need to leave that intact because you don't want to cut anything with that. You're not going to be able to use your windshield wipers. And I don't know about you guys, but in my state, you have to have that working in order for you to pass inspection. So as you can see, we have more wiring here. This we don't need anymore. This we don't need anymore. This we definitely don't need anymore. So all of this, we're going to be able to remove it. Now I do have, I believe, an extra wiring harness here because there were some fog lights that they don't work, unfortunately. I would love to keep them, but they don't work. So we are going to remove that. So you might not have one of these plugs with you. I don't remember which one it is exactly, but you might not have one of those plugs. So that is basically what we're going to do here on the engine side of things. So let me jump inside and I'll show you. Now, I've been doing some cleaning, so you most definitely do not have to get to this level of taking stuff off. All you need to worry about when you're coming in here inside is there's going to be a small plastic trim cover here, and then you might actually do have to remove this one because I believe it holds it in place. If you're not able to take the cover here, remove or at least loosen up the first 2 bolts here, and you lift it, and you should be able to get the cover that's here. Once you get that cover out of the way, we have now access to the ECU. And honestly, guys, on my B2000, I threw this to the trash. I don't need it. I have no use for it. Basically, everything that's here, we're going to unplug it for the most part. Just be careful. Don't start cutting stuff out of the way yet. We have to try to trace the wires because I believe there are a few wires that do need to stay, that they're attached to a plug that goes along the dash towards the front of the truck. I believe that they are for the windshield wiper, so we got to make sure we don't touch that wire at all. So here you can just basically start removing your ECU bolts, take it out of the way, unplug it, and then leave the wires to the side. Let's make sure we got the right wires before we start cutting anything in here. So let's jump back to the front of the truck and start going at it. right, guys, so we're making some progress, and let me talk to you guys through some of this changes right now. So as you can see, I removed my fuse box. I just basically unbolted the 2 bolts there. They're 10 millimeter. Put it to the side. I also unhooked one of the plugs. This plug basically connects to these 3 things here, and like I said before, we do need to keep those things. So make sure you put this to the side, get it out of the way so it's easy for you to work. And then let me get closer here. Hold on. So once we have this to the side, I also unhooked my other little cable that's coming out of the negative, just to get it out of the way as well. I know that one needs to be plugged back in, but basically, if you see here, we have a few wires that need to be that need to stay with this harness, and this is where the hard part is going to come in, or the tedious part, not necessarily hard, is that you're going to have to basically unravel all of this wire loom all the way to the back, so you can get basically this one wire out of the way, and then also make sure we're not ripping this few wires here that connect to this. Now I think some of those, once you start unraveling this, go towards the front, so it's not a big deal, but again, we need to make sure we keep them, because basically I believe this one wire that's over here in the front that attaches to the frame is the negative for the windshield wiper motor here. So again, that's going to be the tedious part. You guys most likely won't have this other kind of wire loom here. That is the one that I have for my fog lights, so I'm definitely taking that one off as well. But yeah, we are now going to start removing the zip ties and start unraveling the wire loom, just so we can get the one wire out that we need, and then maybe we'll shorten the one that goes here to the frame. I'm not sure yet, but we're going to start doing this first, so let's get to it. Okay guys, I just want to show you here real quick too. Basically, once you this wires here, this one, and this one, and even this one here on the side, they're whole into this wire with some tape. So once you cut that tape, you can basically pull all of this ones forward, and then this one also kind of separates on its own. So you can lift this one to the side, because like I said, we need to make sure this cable is connected to where it needs to go to make sure the wiper motor works. So you can put that one to the side, and then we're going to start focusing on this one first and getting all of this extra wire that we don't need, all of this, getting out of the way. And then we'll make sure we get this wire on its own to where it needs to go. So let's do it. All right guys, so let's take a second to talk through some of the changes right now. So as you might have seen me, I was been peeling basically the whole harness. We can see now all the wires are now exposed. And then remember when I told you be careful with this plug, I just wanted to make sure we had the right plug and the right cables before we started taking anything off. But basically this plug, you can disconnect it, because the cables that go into it go into the harness that we're basically getting rid of. We are not going to need this plug. We're not going to need any of the cables that go into that plug, so you can disconnect it and put it to the side as well. So basically the only cable so far that we need to keep out of this harness is going to be this black and kind of stripe red cable here. And then also, again, we need to make sure we keep the cables that are giving power to the windshield wiper motor. So that one is going to be off of this harness. So once we start cleaning up this harness, I can start separating the cables that go into that, and then make sure we're not going to strip them or rip them or anything like that. And then basically the rest of this is going to be basically trash. So let's start taking that aside and then move on to the next thing. Let's do it. All right guys, check it out. Just let me show you. Look at the amount of wiring we won't need now anymore. Look at that. That's a lot. The only wires we need to make sure we keep are going to be this ones. This is the harness that basically plugs into here. Here is the black with red stripes wire that was connected towards the front. We gotta make sure we keep that. We're not gonna rip anything related to this, but everything else here, all of this is just trash. We can get rid of it. We don't need it anymore. The only time you would keep that is if you're planning to go back to the factory carburetor. But if you're not, trash. So let's get it out of there. All right, guys, so now we've done the most tedious part, which is getting the wire out of the way. We know exactly what we need to put out. We do need to unplug this rubber plug that goes into the firewall here. Don't cut it or anything like that. We just need to make sure we can get the stuff out of there. So that is out. We know which cables we need to keep. They're also here. You can see there is some wires that go towards the right and then some wires that go down. The ones that go down are the ones that go into the ECU, but we need to separate this so we can make sure those wires that go into the right, they are the wires that go along with the windshield wiper motor. But let's move inside and I'll show you here real quick too. So once you're inside, you can now start removing basically your ECU, and it's going to be just two 10mm bolts, one here, one on the bottom. Once you get it out, this ECU basically kind of pops this way, and then this is just pushed in there. Unhook your cables and everything, and now this is also going to be a bit of a tedious part because we have to basically, I don't know if you can see there, let me see if I can get a good angle. If you see that kind of red towards the back over there, that's where the light is coming through from that rubber plug we took off the firewall, and then this cables basically run all the way up there. So we need to make sure we get them out and separated from those windshield wiper cables. Once you separate those, then we should be able to just take off those whole cables and get them out of the way, and hopefully start tying up anything that we need to tie up. So let's do it. All right, guys, we are basically all done with the wiring. Let me show you here what happened. So basically, once I figured out all the wiring and everything where it needed to go, I came in and cut the wiring that was going this way. I mean, there's too many plugs to try to pass it through here without cutting this, and you don't want to cut that because we want to leave that as intact as possible. So if you saw me here in the video, basically I came in and cut everything that I didn't need, everything that was separate from this wiring harness that goes into the motors. And then back here, also, there are some cables that go to the right that's supposed to connect into the ECU. I went and cut those out as well. We don't need them. They're not going to do anything. The only wires that we need are the ones for the windshield wiper motor. So I just came in here and added some electrical tape, make sure they're going to be not touching each other, out of the way. And then now all we got to do is come in here and put this back in place and come in and tighten up all the stuff that we had moved to the side to make it easier for us to work with. Now on the inside, if you move on here, you can see right here on the ground, this is basically the wiring harness. Once it's all cut, as you can see, all you got to do from here is basically come in and pull it, and you can get it out of the way. And that's all there is to it. You're ready to start putting your stuff back in. Obviously, if you didn't take out the carpet or anything like that, you can just put in your trim from the side and button up the front like we said. And once that is all done, just go ahead and give the truck a good old test run, make sure everything's turning on good. I'll do that here in a second. Let me button up this part. And yeah, that is all there is to it. Now you have a way cleaner left side, way better than it was before. So again, that's all there is to it. So let me clean this up, turn it on so you can show you guys, and then we should be pretty much done. Okay, here I just want to show you guys real quick what I ended up doing. So this is the cable that was basically all the way over here to this bolt on this side, and I figure we don't need it to be all the way over there. I don't think there's a need. So what I did is I made it shorter by basically pushing all the remaining cable in there, making sure that there was enough cable for me to tie it into this bolt. That was the bracket that I removed when I did my Weber install, so there's no need for anything to go there. So I thought it was a good spot, make it shorter, make it a little bit cleaner. I used some of this spool covering that was in the truck already from some of the stuff I removed. So now we have just a nice little clean line coming out. That is grounded as it should be. This is plugged back where it needs to be. We have our fuse box wire back where it needs to be. Everything's plugged there. And then all the other cables right now, we just need to plug this grounds here real quick, put our battery on, and then we'll be ready to turn the truck on. So let's do it. Check it out, guys, the truck is on. Don't mind if it's being so loud, I have no exhaust. But look, no dash lights besides the brake light. Nothing that affects anything by removing all of those wires. So, all right guys, so there we have it. We have everything put back together. Everything's good. You just saw the truck turn on. You saw me showing you the inside on the cluster, how there is no lights outside of just the brake light. So this is a great cleanup method for you to be able to get rid of all those cables that they're useless, now that you swapped into a Weber carburetor. And now your whole left side looks a lot cleaner. Now you could also, if you wanted to make even this side a little bit cleaner, basically just put your ground somewhere up on this area, and then you basically have no wires coming out. And then also, if you need to install or you want to install anything else, now you have a great spot that you can go into the cab without having to make holes or cut into anything. All you gotta do is take the tape off of that, run your wires, and tape it back up, and everything's good. That's what I did on my Mazda, my 87. I basically ran my amplifier wires through here, and it makes it look all factory, makes it look all great, no issues whatsoever. And check it out, guys, this is basically everything we removed. You guys might not have this cable just because that was for some fog lights, but look at this. Bunch of extra wires, a bunch of tape that we don't need. The ECU, useless now. You won't need or have any need for it in the future if you're staying with the Weber carburetor. So this is all the things that you can remove from your truck to make it a little bit cleaner. And I guess you can also say a little bit of weight reduction on it. So there you have it, guys. That's basically all it takes for you to clean up your engine bay after doing a Weber install. This way you're gonna get rid of a bunch of stuff, like you said. You're gonna get rid of the ECU. It really cleans up the engine bay in there. It makes it look a little bit nicer and a little bit better. So hopefully this guide is helpful to you guys. If you thought this was helpful, please don't forget to leave a like or hit the subscribe button if you wanna see more content from us coming up. Again, that's all I have for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.